Hey guys, what's up? City Walk, City Wall here, and look where we are, back in Kobayashi Island. And as you can see, first thing we got here is a huge error occurred. So as you can probably tell, the save is not super functional anymore. And so I'm making this video to kind of say goodbye to Kobayashi Island, do a little tour around this old project, and talk about it a little bit and talk about exactly why it's finishing. And so if you watch this series, you probably remember the goal of this was really to make like a big city, and it wasn't about detail, and it wasn't really about strictly following anything from Google Maps. It was kind of more from imagination. And so obviously the city is huge. That's like the cool thing about it, is it's pretty large. It has 85,000 people who live here. It's pretty sprawling over this whole island. There's a number of places that I didn't fill and are looking pretty empty, like over here next to downtown. This part of downtown is pretty empty. And also here by the airport, there's some free space that is obviously empty up. So yeah, we're just gonna have to be closing error messages constantly throughout this. But other parts of the city look really complete and really cool. Not necessarily accurate to a real place in real life, but they take a style from Japan and do it, and it does its own thing. So this was the first area that got built, this kind of old town area, and you can see we have some missing assets here. There used to be trees along this grassy area, and we got the like Kobayashi Castle, which was like kind of the centerpiece of the city. We got some missing assets over here too. And behind it is kind of like the first big freeway off-ramp area, and this was kind of a defining thing about the series, was doing kind of snaky spaghetti freeway on and off ramps. So this one here is obviously like incredibly spaghetti-ish. I don't know how realistic it is, to be honest, but it does go into this cool like little island here, this Imperial Palace Island that again has some missing trees that were in this garden that made it look a little nicer, but it is a pretty cool thing. This was actually taken a little bit more from Japan, the way that they got this Imperial Island in Japan, where there's you know, palace and whatnot. So we are getting into downtown over here, and like the big part of downtown is obviously the central station, which all the lines are broken. I don't know why people are still even going to this, if you know, 4 out of however many of these train lines don't go anywhere. There used to be a lot of trees in here that are now missing, but this entryway is pretty cool. I obviously would be able to do this much better and cooler now with the intersection marking tool. Like some of these intersections are pretty rudimentary because I wasn't really going for detail. That was something I specifically said, was I don't want to be detailing intersections in this series, but that also just like lets some areas pretty under detailed and not so cool looking, like some of these streets with like no markings, nothing on the sidewalks. It's just buildings. I see we got like a missing building here. I don't know what that was. And then if we go further this way, we have like all of like, you know, actual downtown, where there's the Central Park. I was taking some inspiration, I guess, from Central Park in New York or something. But it is kind of cool how there's all these skyscrapers right around. This area in here was one of the most recent things that I did in the city, kind of like a Shibuya crossing type place, but completely from imagination. I did a little bit more intersection detailing here with these dotted lines, and that was like almost too much detailing for this series. So yeah, the intersection marking tool would have been really cool in this city. And then you can see we have another like crazy problem here, where we just have traffic backed up for miles going into downtown. I don't know what is going on, but like, look at this traffic. What is this? It's all leading into this parking garage for some reason. And then it comes out of the parking garage, goes all the way over here, and then like exits the city, or it tries to exit the city. It's crazy bad traffic. Not to mention all the dead bodies and stuff in all these buildings. Maybe that's what it is there's a lot of dead bodies in the buildings, and it's just a train of hearses going to pick people up or something. But this area is one of the, I think this was the last episode, this sky tree here and this like park and this plaza with these office buildings and stuff. So going this way, we have the Marina, which was this based off anything? No, this was just like completely from imagination, I think. There's this fish market here, which is another thing I definitely could do better if I had to redo it. We have this weird pedestrian overpass for only game functionality reasons, really. I mean, I guess that maybe would exist, but why wouldn't you just go in the tunnel underneath with the cars or something? Like, why is there a pedestrian bridge over here? Plus, there's like these sailboats that go under it and clip through it, so it's not ideal, obviously. We have this island that actually was a little bit more based off of a place in Tokyo. I mean, not exactly. Not even, 'cause in the real thing, this would have some shipping stuff on it, but I replaced it and had it be a little bit more modern or whatever. But that's pretty much downtown. We do have the build-off submission that EOSPA did over here. That's like easily the best part of the city. It's extremely detailed. That's one of the more recent things that got placed in the city as well. And then if we go back here, there's a little bit of industry up in these hills, this overpass. I think I was just trying to get some industry DLC stuff going in the city, so I made like a little forestry industry. Probably not the most realistic. And then really not the most realistic is this like man-made island here. This was very ill-conceived, I think. The idea of having a harbor completely man-made, just like sticking out. Like, why wouldn't it have been over here, I think, and not putting like all this soil into this bay? It makes no sense. I'm assuming there's some cool details in this, but the concept for it really makes me not proud of this area. It's really not based on anything. There seems to be a lot of trees missing, maybe, if I recall. Also, I feel like I must have the LUT wrong. The LUT doesn't, it looks a little bit too bright or something. Doesn't quite look how I remember. So there's a lot of industries, DLC, like factories in there. I think that was part of the, well, not really the reason, but that was one of the things I was thinking about when I was building this. Was I wanted a lot of industry DLC and unique factory stuff to compensate for the fact that there's no highway that exits this island. Like, it's completely, that actually, now that I think about it, that is one of the cool things about this project, was there's no road connection to the edge of the map. So everything that comes here is by either cargo boat or cargo plane or passenger plane or ferry. So the airport obviously is one of probably the coolest parts, but also is sort of the demise of the project in some ways as well. It was one of the things that, it was the thing that kind of blew up my channel in a little bit of a way, like people really saw this screenshot like this, something like that. Oops, error message again. And that got a lot of people watching and subscribing, and very soon after that was when Mars came out and everything really blew up. But this was like the first big video that people saw, I think, was the one that had the screenshot like this. So this airport loop is pretty cool, in terms of the way it looks, and I do think it is somewhat realistic. Like, there's ways to get into these massive parking lots, and there's like a bus that goes around and stuff. There's this cool road that goes underneath. There is obviously a lot of, I don't know what's going on with all these plants why they're missing, but they used to have rows of red and white plants going all throughout even this area. And then the thing that really killed Kobayashi Island was all the procedural objects that are involved in this area. So I made this, and obviously I ran into the prop limit. Oh my goodness, this is like a complete nightmare. And in order to get around the prop limit, I turned this entire airport into procedural objects, basically every single building, prop, decal, and everything. And that's when this save became impossible to open. The FPS like went way down. So it is a cool looking airport. I spent an insane amount of time on this, but I would never ever suggest to anyone doing what I did here, at least with the decals. Like, you gotta figure out a better way than putting down 1,000,000 decals, because that was pretty much the demise of this project again. So there's this area over here that's like the cargo airport. Everything is so bright. Maybe I should turn down some of these settings or something, because you can't see anything how bright some of these white roofs are. It's a little better. Yeah, it's much better. And then going this way, you know, there's some stuff like a little bit of extension of the port here, a car factory, a sewage thing. This was one of the more detailed builds, I suppose. I really like this thing. There used to be water that came in here. I don't know what happened to that. And the one thing I really did want to actually show you guys is there was a build that I did in Kobayashi Island that was done like after I started Mars and after I really got into the groove of detailing a lot more heavily, and I wanted to do some really detailed builds in Kobayashi Island. But so I'll show you. I was just showing you this mine, but let's go down to this build that I did much more recently. So this is like this cool little thing where this train line comes into this little town. There's a bunch of, this was like right when these gray flame rocks first came out, so I was like really excited to use them in a place like this, so I used a ton. There's this little village, like some houses with little boats and stuff, and then the coolest part is there's this train line that goes over this stream, and I spent a lot of time getting these gray flame rocks like perfect here with all these little shrubs and stuff. And I even made this custom asset, this bridge, to go over like double, you know, or triple even. Look at that. Going over these different, you know, waterfalls. This was before the Kaminogi waterfalls came out, so that would have been perfect up in here. But yeah, this never really got finished. Like I didn't get to some of the areas on the fringes of it, and so I was like, I never made an episode out of it, and it's just been sitting here forever. So I am glad to be showing this to you guys. Even like still, some of this stuff is kind of questionable, like the way that this train line does this crazy loop right here. Like it does, you know, make it so that the grade of the train is relatively even, but like why would you do that? You know, like why have a train, just have the train stop here or something? Why loop all the way around like that? It makes no sense. So that was, you know, there's a number of reasons why I am not coming back to Kobayashi Island. One of them obviously is this error message that keeps popping up, which I think is because of some missing assets that used to be on the workshop and no longer are, or got taken off momentarily and were brought back, but then like it just screwed up the save, you know. So that's obviously a big part of it. I can't really be working in a city where I'm having to hold down the enter button and get rid of those error messages constantly. But also I just really am not happy with the concept of the city. Like it wasn't really based off of anything in particular. It was just sort of like putting down what I remember or thought Japan looked like, and not really using Google Maps that heavily or trying to go crazy and get like it really looking perfect. I was just going for like sort of hodgepodge generic Japanese sprawl that like looked good from a distance, but anytime you got close to it at all, it kind of fell apart. So that's the main reason like why I can't really bring myself to come back here, besides obviously the technical. It doesn't even work if I really wanted it to. So there is one more thing. Over in this area we have Lijo's build, which was also one of the last things that came into the city, and I feel like even this, maybe this is how it was. It doesn't look like this before, with, but there's so many things that are different about this city. But Lijo's build is pretty awesome, and it's also kind of one of the things that when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, like this is so much better than what I had been doing this whole entire time. Why? It made me like kind of almost depressed to work in the city, because I was like, it could be so much better. Like even parts of the city are better than other parts of the city. I need to just start from scratch and just make a city that's good through and through. Every single part of it is. So that's what Mars is. And Lijo, honestly, you know, even though that happened, it's a huge thanks to Lijo, because he gave me the time in order to go and start Mars. I probably wouldn't have done it even close to in the time that I did. It would have taken me months and months longer to finally get around to starting it. But I think it was worth it, and Lijo showed me a lot of techniques that really got me better at City Skylines with his build, and watching what he did and how he used those same assets that I was using differently. Sad to see it go. I mean, I can obviously open the save game whenever and fly around. On Patreon, there's some save games there that you could look around yourself and probably experience the same issues, or maybe even get it to work without errors and do some more builds in it. It could be fun, but I have to warn you, it's not great on the FPS, and it's really not great on the load time. It takes forever to load, but I did want to, make this video and get a little bit of closure on this project and just show it off one last time. So I'm obviously sorry about Kobayashi Island. I know some people really loved it, but everything kind of comes to an end in this game, and more often than not in an untimely fashion because of issues of the size and the assets and all that stuff. So say goodbye to Kobayashi Island, and I'll see you guys later. Take it easy.